Hello everyone, welcome back to the Watchalong. Sorry for the delay, but we still have a fair few minutes on the clock, so no problem at all. For the session, the Brazilian Grand Prix, one of the most epic races that you can get on a Formula One calendar, in my opinion at least. We are 52 minutes on the clock. Norris tops the times, Piastri in P2, and we've got Gasly in P3. As we've got also a sprint race weekend event coming around, which is gonna be very, very interesting. Could we see the Mercedes drivers once again showing good pace in that kind of more rapid format, or are they still going to be just a little bit far back? Unfortunately, I don't quite know. We will find out in a few moments' time. Tom, it looks like Verstappen has got some sort of situation going on.
Yeah, already talked about it at Mexico. He has some problems with left parts for his engine system and is now taking some good penalty for changing his engine. And I think it's better for him to take it now than for other tracks, because Brazil is a track where it's kind of easy to overtake with the two long straights following each other. So it's a good call from Red Bull, I think, to take the penalty now and not on tracks like Qatar.
So it is a 5-place grid penalty, meaning that if he was to get pole position, I believe, would that be on full qualifying or maybe sprint? I don't quite know. Anyway, if he got pole position, then he would start P6. I think, would it be on sprint quali? It wouldn't be on actual qualifying, right? I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that, but yeah, we'll find out ready for the next session. Of course, we'll be doing sprint qualifying later on today and find out where everyone will line up. The two Ferraris are going to be raring to go. It's been assumed that Red Bull will have the back foot on both of the other teams. Of course, Ferrari and McLaren just having so good form recently. McLaren still seeming to be kind of the fastest car, but just not able to set a trouble, whether that be Oscar Piastri not able to get a good result in qualifying, or that is Lando Norris being caught with a battle of Verstappen in the early stages of a race. That has basically allowed the Ferraris to take a not victory, because I think they could have taken it anyway, but a bit of an easier victory than it maybe would have if there was a bit more of a fight between the other cars. So we'll see how that one goes. Ferrari currently operating on a phenomenal level. McLaren still. I would say this weekend it's their race to lose, but we will find out, and never say never. Anything can happen. Now, Perez currently tops the times. Looking at Perez, could possibly be his final race in Formula One is being rumoured. I don't think that will be the case. I think it's going to be more of a last season potentially, although they say they're going to continue racing. Tom, what do you think? Do you think Perez is going to be racing next year, or do you think we're going to see maybe one of the junior drivers come in, and who would maybe replace one of the drivers at Racing Bull?
I think it could be the last season for Perez, at least in a Red Bull car. We know that Red Bull is quite trigger happy with changing their drivers. And Perez, with his results this season, taking Red Bull to P3 just in the Constructor Championship, even though they could be further ahead, just shows how much of a bad season he has currently. And I think Red Bull will put him out of the car for next season. In an interview earlier, he was quite... he was thinking that he will be driving next season, but I don't know if he just said it for media. But I think we won't see him next season, as I said, and probably Tsunoda and Lawson have the best chances. Obviously, being in the junior team, as I call it. And then it's a question, what do you want more? Lawson's kind of inexperienced, but great pace he was showing, or Tsunoda, who has shown he has more experience with some strategies in the race in terms of tires and when to overtake and how to fight against somebody. So personally, I would take Tsunoda and then there would be the spot in the V Cup. And then there's a question: could Paris just be demoted or completely out of the Red Bull cosmos? And I probably think that Red Bull want to give a junior driver another chance. So maybe we could see Hadjar in the V Cup and Tsunoda in the Red Bull for the next season.
I think it's a very possible shout. Whether they stay loyal to Hadjar or if they maybe go and get Colapinto in. There have been rumours that they've been offering Colapinto a contract as Racing Bull, so that kind of means that, well, that free spot at Racing Bull is going to be not so free, and one car or one driver out of the junior team will be taking that Red Bull seat, assuming to be Lawson, if that's the case, because they haven't actually, I think they haven't been confirmed next season, if I'm correct in saying. Anyway, yeah, that could all change around. I think really, if it is to be Sergio Perez's last race this weekend, then we would probably see Sebastian Vettel replace. I'm joking. That would be awesome though. But no, we won't see Sebastian Vettel replacing him for the rest of the season. We'll probably see, I'm gonna say, Liam Lawson get the chance. I would say, or maybe actually no. Maybe they'd go Tsunoda, give him a few races. That could actually be possible, but yeah, we'll find out after this race, of course. So when it gets to Monday, that's what we're going to be looking at. Perez has got a lot of work to do. Whether they even won the race this weekend, it might be a little bit too late to make any kind of confirmation of whether they'll keep their seat or not. I think what they'd have to do is basically be in the top 4, top 3 in the entire weekend if they wanted to try and keep that seat, in my opinion. But maybe that's a little bit too aggressive. We'll find out. But all the cars are going through the circuit. We've got Colapinto on the limit in many areas. We've got Max Verstappen once again struggling to brake on the front end, and they just locked up into the first corner. I think the Haas of Ole Behrman is having a little bit of a moment here or there. Talking to Tom just before the stream, I thought Alonso wasn't going to be in the weekend, or at least in FP1, because they were ill. They've recovered, they're back in the car and in practice, as you can obviously see. But Oliver Behrman, as we just mentioned there, is replacing Magnussen for the moment. Whether they'll replace them into the entire weekend, I don't know, but I believe they will be replacing them for the entirety of today, which would mean the sprint race also would go to Behrman. I'm not entirely sure on how classification works, and that Magnussen would be able to get in for qualifying and the race on Sunday, but that possibly won't happen, and we could see a third race here for Oliver Behrman in a season that he's not actually really full-time in, which would be absolutely incredible. And to add to that, if Ferrari to win the Constructors' Championship, Oliver Behrman would win his first ever Constructors' Championship as he was a Ferrari driver in Saudi Arabia without even competing in an entire season. That would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it would definitely be really lucky for him. As a Ferrari fan, I hope he gets that chance. But else, now having his second race in a Haas is really good for him, especially considering he's driving for them next season. So it's good for him to have more of a feeling for the car than drivers have when they get first into the car at the beginning of the season, and then in the practice sessions or the test days. So it's really nice because he just knows how the car feels and can actively help to get the car a bit better, also for his liking.
Yeah, he that's definitely something that he can take advantage of. He raced in Azerbaijan with the Haas team, and he managed to score a point in a bit of a controversial fashion. We've just had a big moment there with Lewis Hamilton and one of the Ferraris, as that would have been Carlos Sainz. They almost came to blows into the final major corner, as Hamilton was trying to go through the lap. Yeah, Carlos Sainz just was kind of sat there basically. Hamilton goes into the pit lane now after that one, maybe needs a change of underwear. Running a very nice Brazil-inspired helmet. I don't know when they're going to be driving that car, if they have, but they're going to be driving it in Senna's McLaren, 1990 McLaren at some point. as I said, whether they've done it or not, I can't quite remember, but hopefully we get to see that at some point soon. That'd be pretty special. Now, the team has just done a practice pit stop, but they are going to bring him into the pit lane anyway, so there's not really going to be another running for Lewis Hamilton just yet, as that was actually pretty close there. But once again, no penalties in a practice session for impeding. We only get one practice session. It will take us to the sprint qualifying later on this afternoon. Sprint qualifying, Tom, who do you think is going to get that top spot?
It's really hard to say. The Red Bulls are looking quite good and fast as of now, but we're just 20 minutes in, or not even 20 minutes in. So they might have a chance, but we have to be aware of McLaren, of Ferrari, maybe of Mercedes, to get in these top spots. Maybe a candidate from another team who just had a really lucky run in the last sprint shootout, maybe with a bit of the weather. I don't know if maybe rain's coming later today or maybe just the next days. But in Brazil, everything is possible. So I would see Ferrari now having the best shot for sprint pole position. But I could see like 6-7 drivers getting the top spot.
Fair enough. Yeah, it will be a hell of a mix, and I believe the only real chance of actually rain kicking in will be on Sunday. We've got about, is it like a 50 to 20% chance on Saturday for rain, but on Sunday it will be about 65 to 60% chance of rain at the time of the race. So that is going to be pretty exciting, whether that be the case or not. I believe that today, however, it will only be clear skies. So we can see the cars going full pelt for sure. That'll be great to see, as they're trying to make as much use as they can of this practice session. As we're just talking about results, I'm going to say for pole, I think, yeah, Ferrari, I think are going to be on top, and I think they'll be able to convert it. I don't think the McLaren will be able to go long enough to really take advantage of their kind of features to get ahead of McLaren. That being said, they can definitely make changes. McLaren should be somewhat quick, but I think they're struggling in the low speed, so that middle sector, that second sector, will be very, very difficult for the McLarens, whereas the first sector should be the real selling point for the weekend. Regarding winning the sprint race, no, sorry, not regarding winning the sprint race, regarding Verstappen, they have scored points in every sprint race in history, and they have won the last 6 races, sprint races, I should say. So, in theory, you could say, yeah, you know what, Verstappen's going to win it. They'll have the aggression, they're going to try and utilise everything at the start and maybe make it work. I think in Austin, if we didn't see the fighting happen as hard as it was kind of happening at the time between the other cars behind, I think maybe the Ferraris would have been able to take that victory. So yeah, I do think you're right. I think Ferrari are going to have it. I don't think McLaren are going to get it in the sprint, but I think McLaren should be able to get it in the main race.
Yeah, definitely, especially with a car that's just really great in tire preservation. We've got a really long race because the track is so short, but especially really heavy traction zones in the middle sector, where the better tire preservation could play a significant role, which could really help McLaren, especially if they have it easier within with a one-stop race, and other teams maybe have to switch to a two-stop, like maybe Red Bull, because they had some trouble with tire wear throughout the season on some tracks. So that could really help McLaren for the longer sessions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be their selling point. Of course, we saw a few races earlier in the season. For example, Imola, I remember Lando made that brilliant comeback later on into the race. Didn't quite get the job done. Also did it in Spain, hunting down Verstappen, but didn't get the job done. won previously before that. I think it was previously won Miami, and they had the pace later on. They just didn't quite have the pace before. That was a moment for Sonoda, as they had just earlier. We did get to see it live, but they've had a bit of a moment at, that would be 10-10. They've kept it out of the barrier, but just touching the grass on the entry, it looks like, and it can be very, very slippy, especially up on the high end of the circuit, so they've got to be careful and how that goes. Looking at the timings, we've got Verstappen currently topping the time, so all of this kind of slander on the Red Bull pace is kind of going out the window at the moment, as we've also got Perez in P3. Everyone is in the pit lane at the moment, except from Valtteri Bottas, so that's an interesting situation. There's a lot of clean air to really be making use of. Sauber could be doing a kind of a media day at the moment. They could get another car on track and film them. Anyway, I'm talking about nothing right there. Looking at the tyre situation, the top four are all on mediums. We've got Lawson in P5 on that soft. As we've got this one practice session, everyone's kind of dialed it up quite quickly, and we're not kind of seeing the people that we expect to be at the top because McLaren aren't up there, but it's definitely going to be a bit more of a representative pace chart compared to usual FP1s. We kind of really need to treat this as an FP3.
Yeah, definitely. It's the only chance to get some practice in, some air in for the race, for the whole weekend. Especially if you want to succeed in the sprint, which obviously the top teams want to have the points for the Constructors' Championship, and also for Verstappen and Norris, and maybe Leclerc for having a chance at the Drivers' Championship. So they have to do like real lap time data just to see how the car performs, how the car behaves on track, which is just really nice to see for the viewer, because you have an idea of what the weekend could look like in terms of pace of all of these cars.
Mm-hmm. And Tom, if you were to watch a Grand Prix weekend, would you want to watch a standard Grand Prix weekend, or would you want to watch a sprint weekend? Personally, if you went to a racetrack.
Hard to say. I would say as a weekend as a whole, sprint weekends are just more entertaining for the average viewer, because you've got more action, you've got more drama and so on, and like sessions where you actually have to perform. So that's just really nice to look. But I also can understand for the drivers that they just want maximum of sprint races, because it's just so hard to do it every weekend or every second weekend, these intense amount of driving.
Yeah.
As it's quite physical, especially on mid-speed to high-speed tracks with a lot of turns. So they just need or want a small break, and more practice sessions are sort of a break for them, because you just could take 10 minutes off while the team changes something on the setup, or maybe doing a bit of refueling. So for a driver's perspective, normal weekend better. For the average viewer, I would say sprint weekends just clearly more entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, the more circuits, more sprints, and also new circuits that are kind of in hot climates. We've got Qatar that we're coming up to for the penultimate race of the season, and that is going to be a sprint race. So that's going to be absolutely killer. It was a sprint race last year as well. So it's going to be more of that, and we had a few drivers struggling with that in the past. Now, I'm just looking at last year's FP1 times. It was also a sprint race for Brazil last year as well. That was an 11.732, so Max Verstappen has already beaten that time. We've had Charles Leclerc in last year's FP1 session doing 11.840, so it looks like we have gone for P2 faster as well, but Perez in the 12s, so everyone else is slightly slower than the previous results, but currently we have managed to beat last year's already, and we're only 33 minutes on the clock, so we've still got a lot of distance to go in this session. many cars are now back out. We've got Piastri and Norris looking to try and set a bit more of a representative pace at the moment. We'll see how that goes. A few people doing practice starts on the pit lane exit. Hopefully no one gets involved in any issues there, as they're very, very close to one another. But yeah, we'll see what the lap times are going to be now. Tom, I'm just going to have to quickly hand this over to you. So I do apologise for the delay. And I will be back in a minute. But what's going on with Aston and McLaren for their upgrades, etc.?
Yeah, both teams are trying to improve their car. McLaren is seeing that Ferrari is catching up, and they just want to get everything out of the car to win the Constructors' Championship and help Norris win the Drivers' Championship. So they brought a small update to get that advantage. Especially looking right now, you just see that they could need it, but they're probably just doing a bit of sandbagging with a bit more fuel load. And then there's Aston Martin having an update at Austin already, which I wasn't really happy about it. So they went back, especially on the floor, and taking the Suzuka floor. So a bit more of an older part on the car, but yes, they have seen that the new parts aren't as working as they were hoped, as they're hoping to. Reverting back to the older parts, you just don't have the data, could make the difference, especially I think staying in front of the Haas, in front of Haas, who are just really fast in the last races, going multiple points, while seeing the Astons just struggle a lot through the last weekends. Maybe with that older parts they can get back to scoring regular points, maybe P9, P8 here and there, and that would be a lot better for them as just trying to make the new parts work.
For sure. Now, Haas, can they get to Aston? I'm not sure, but yeah, it will be a big effort to do so, but it's not exactly impossible. I am going to assume, going to be good where they are currently, so they can only gain. Although I've probably spoken too soon, and it's going to go horribly wrong now for that team. Of course, both main drivers for this season won't be racing for the same or for that team when we get to next season. That will be Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman. Oliver Behrman will be racing for that team, and he's currently racing on track at the moment. But Kevin Magnussen, of course, is the current full-time driver. So it's a shame to see both of those guys leave as soon as the team is kind of picking up again from kind of, 2018, where it really seemed to have a decent pace. But yeah, it's the way it goes. It is just how it's going to be. Magnussen, I think, has finished with Formula 1. Unfortunately, he's had his second stint, getting a sprint pole here in 2022, which was absolutely awesome. It was sprint pole. And then I'm trying to think of what I was going to say next. Of course, Hulkenberg, there we go, going to Sauber for the Audi project, which will be very, very, very good for him, I'm sure. I think, I don't know. Tom, if you're Nico Hulkenberg, would you want to stay with Haas, who seem to start picking things up as they've got Toyota on board as well, or are you happy to go to Audi?
I would say for now it would have been the better choice to stay there. But when he made this decision, it looked like Haas and Sauber would be bottom 2, bottom 3, bottom 3 teams. So taking a change to the team which will be held by a German car brand. So you're in a German team, have especially at the beginning before some personal changes in the F1 team of Audi, you had some familiar names for Nico Hülkenberg. So for him, just as a person trying to have fun while racing, it was a good call for him to go to Audi because he just had the surroundings who would suit him, and just a nice story for him helping a new German team getting to the top, especially in terms of the 26th season with the new regulations. There could be a decent chance just to help and develop a brand new team, and maybe with another German teammate, maybe a different teammate. But just the storyline and the PR, everything is just really nice for him. A German driver in a German team. All the Germans just wanted to have somebody somewhat successful on the grid. Not the Mercedes team isn't as hyped, I would say, in Germany, and the coming in of Audi just gave another boost after Mick leaving the German circuit on track.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of media, it's just a really great call for Nico Hülkenberg to go to Sauber, later Audi.
Yeah, it would be great for him, I think. I think ultimately for maybe legacy purposes, if he can build that team up, then that would be great, and he would always be remembered for that team. It is interesting that you say that Mercedes not really hyped so much. They won so much, but oh well, they can't. They can only do their best. It is what it is. It says right now that Lance Stroll is retired for some reason. I think we'll get a correction on that on the graphic very soon. So I do apologise why that was momentarily wrong. But yeah, anyway, looking at the clock, 25 minutes right now. Verstappen still tops the time as they've got an 11.7 continuing, but we've had a lot of drivers now get closer and closer, most notably those two Mercedes, second and third right there. Alonso is about almost 2/10 away from the Mercedes, so there is a bit of a gap, but just went purple in that final sector actually. So yeah, everyone's kind of slowly bleeding in the car now. We're all on the medium tyres that's set from Lawson and Sonoda. They're doing soft tyre runners at the moment. Soft tyre runs at the moment. We're all on scrub tyres, except from Russell, who's in the pit lane looking to come out on a set of fresh mediums. So we'll see how that one goes. They've got to be careful with their tyres on a sprint weekend because it means that they're a bit more limited in what they can do. And I think hard tyre wise, it might be that some teams chuck away hard tyres and won't be able to have so much flexibility when it comes to the race situation. But whether they've made the right decision or not, we will find out in the moment. And of course, the weather will definitely possibly be a factor. So whether we'll be plonking on a set of intermediates, that will have to wait. Whether we'll go on a set of wet tyres is probably very slim because as soon as it gets to wet tyre conditions, we can just red flag the race. So would we see the cars on the inters? We'll find out. But currently we've got a lot of people out on track, set from George Russell, and it's going to be a bit of a busy one. It's a short circuit here at Brazil, so we can get some potential for traffic, and that's going to be something that cars are going to have to look out for in the qualifying sessions. We could see a lot of people have problems if they're blocked on their laps, maybe even Verstappen getting further problems. Could we see McLaren do their usual thing and set laps early on? I think, was it McLaren who does laps quite early on compared to others, and then, you know, get a safe lap time in and be further up the order? We'll see, we'll find out, as I don't know what's quite going on. There we've got the Ferrari going wide at the turn 4 corner, as we saw many times that happen with a famous battle between Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen in 2021. Hopefully we don't have that again, but I'm going to be honest, we might do. It's a very raceable circuit, as you said earlier, Tom. It's slightly easier to overtake compared to other circuits. So we could see some crazy battles in the opening stages of a Grand Prix. And I think even if Max Verstappen isn't able to compete up front with the others, he can definitely still be quite competitive, probably within the first couple of laps. And I think he's going to be looking to try and target Norris to slow Norris' progress down in any of the races. Who will be able, you won't be able to do that in qualifying, because if you do try and slow people's progress down, you'll get yourself penalties. So anyway, I'm finding nothing to talk about, but somehow still talking. We've got a few people going on some improvement laps now.
Yeah, some drivers probably just looking how the car behaves on scrub tires with a bit of less fuel in the car. Also being prepared for the later ends of the race. Yeah, and obviously with less fuel and around the same tire age as you were driving on before with more fuel load, it's just natural you could or you can drive a bit of faster lap times. But we see a lot of drivers doing small mistakes in the hairpin in the middle sector, in turn form with Hamilton and Sainz already. So it's quite interesting to see how much the drivers struggle, maybe with a bit of wind, maybe with the setup, but often failing, just more making small mistakes, which just cost the laps, which could be foreshadowing for the sprint shootout and the qualifying sessions later on tomorrow.
Alright, sorry, I was just focusing on sorting something else out at the moment, so I do apologise, I missed that bit there. But we've got George Russell on a fresh set of softs. Is he going to be going fastest? It looks like he could be doing so. Purple middle sector wasn't too far away from Verstappen earlier on. And across the line for the Mercedes car. And they don't go fastest? They do. There was a bit of a delay there. I do apologise for that one. They do go fastest ahead of Verstappen by 9/10 as well. That's absolutely mega. It is expected though.
Yeah, especially with the softer tire, which doesn't make a lot of difference around such a short circuit. But when you're on a fresh set of soft tires in that middle sector, as I said, really traction heavy, you just can get this bit of better exit, just a bit of better turning, and so you just get the corner better and have a better entry in the next, and that just sums up in the middle sector, so you can get that much of an improvement with a new set of soft compared to the set of medium, but probably in the race without just trying to set really fast lap time, we will just see difference of 3 to 5/10 between both compounds.
Indeed. Alright. As we have currently got 90 minutes on the clock, we've passed the 20-minute mark. It's Russell, Verstappen, Hamilton in the pit lane, Alonso up to P4, Leclerc, Gasly, Perez, Sainz, Stroll, Lawson, Albon. And then we've got Piastri, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Colapinto, Norris down in P16, Behrman, Tsunoda, Bottas and Zhou. The McLaren's still not setting too quick lap times. However, we did say this, I think, last weekend, because we were a bit worried about what they're doing, and then they just came and absolutely smashed it later on. Obviously, it still didn't win the race, but they did go pretty quick towards the later stages and prove that they can be very quick. We've got Perez and Norris very close to one another on track as they're looking to try and set some laps with each other. Maybe this is a chance for Norris to have a go at looking at how they can race one of the Red Bulls. Maybe not quite the right Red Bull, but if they can try and show some tricks, maybe look at a few braking zones for overtakes, they can maybe have a a battle. Will we see Norris go for an overtake here on Perez and get a preview into the Grand Prix and the sprint race, of course, that we'll get tomorrow? That will be an absolutely epic race. DRS will be available for Norris, as they are going to flick it open, and it should be a move into the first corner.
Probably not, therefore he was just too far away at the start of the start-finish straight. Especially because of Perez also flipped open the DRS. So maybe in the sprint or qualify or normal race with the car ahead doesn't open the DRS, you might have a chance from 7, 8 tenths back, but probably most likely you have to be at 5 to 6 tenths to get the opportunity in a DRS train, just to get the opportunity for overtake. Without DRS train and the car in front not having the DRS available, it could be 7 tenths of a gap, but most likely we will just see moves into the turn 4, as it's a bit of a heavier braking zone and a bit easier because it doesn't move from going uphill to going downhill, and it's more easy to stay behind and just follow the other car through the center S.
Yeah, you get a bit of a better chance of staying ahead in that middle sector as well. If you overtake at that corner, it's very, very wide on exit, so it can be possible to extend, which could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, it could create drama, it could also prevent somebody from going into the wall and they have a place to escape if they were to be forced off the circuit. I'm not trying to foreshadow and look like an absolute boss later on in the weekend, but I might just be. We'll see how that one goes. Or I'm going to be completely wrong and look like an absolute melon. Anyway, we've got Hamilton on an outlap. I'm just looking at the tyre age. It's the same tyre. So a lot of cars just trying to use the same tyre and get as many kind of simulations on this compound as they possibly can. And then they're going to try and figure out things later on accordingly. It would suggest that a lot of teams are looking to just go all the way on a medium tyre for the race, and maybe do possibly a soft run later on. It is interesting that Russell's done that so early. I'm not entirely sure why they did their soft run so early. Obviously there will be a reason to it. It looks like they're almost on their way to go back out on track soon, but we'll find out, as lots of people are actually kind of going back into the pit lane at this stage, so we might see a few more people that Stroll going into the pit lane as well. Berman is on a lap at the moment, but they're not going to be going too fast because they are on 21 old tyres at the moment. But yeah, not too many people out on track, not too much happening, but we've still got a way to go in this session, and then hopefully we can get some qualifying runs. That's what I want to see. We did get some side-by-side action with Norris and Perez. It wasn't quite where we expected it. We thought it would be into turn 1 or turn 4, but no. It was in the pit lane entry, as Norris wanted to try and have a go at making that move. I don't think that was going to be too wise if they did do it, though.
Yeah, I mean, the pit lane of Brazil is wider than a lot of other pit lane entries. So you might have a chance to get at least next to another car going into it, but it's just really hard because it's the width of a bit more than 2 cars, and you have to be pretty ballsy, let's say, to do it, because you've got a small right left in the entry, which also makes it a bit harder to brake for the line. But yeah, it has the potential to see a pit lane overtake, pit lane entry overtake, but it's probably not the smartest thing to do in the race or sprint.
Yeah, it could in theory work if you really think about it, but if you were to do it, you would want to go on the left-hand side if your pit box was earlier than the car that you're trying to pass, or the right-hand side if it was later on. And you could maybe get a bit of an advantage and maybe even overtake on pit lane exit, but you wouldn't be able to make that move on pit lane entry probably, because you have to stick to a speed limit. So at a certain point you'll just be level and you'll just have to basically awkwardly drive alongside each other down the pit lane, which would be quite a fun one to see if we can see that, but I think we probably won't actually see it. We've got Hamilton looking like they're going very quick, but it might just be the gyro cam, to be honest. P3 at the moment for the British driver, still 9/10 behind their teammate, but I'm expecting to see in these last 10 minutes a few people plonk on those softer compounds. Maybe Hamilton is going for a different simulation run, and Russell's done the qualifying simulation, and that's how it's going. I mean, he's back out on the scrub set of softs that he used earlier on. They weren't scrubbed, now they are. So they're going to go on for a second qualifying run. Now, what I wanted to say is maybe that they're splitting their simulations just to try and prove, or not prove, get as much data as they can between the cars. Usually that wouldn't be the case. I don't see why you would do that, because every driver has their different preferences. That being said, both drivers have been very similar this season, and I'm not saying in necessarily a good way, in that they both crashed at exactly the same corner in exactly the same way in Austin. They both seem to be incredibly competitive, fairly equal. I think sometimes they can be unlucky or lucky and get ahead of one another. But yeah, we'll see. I've once again completely waffled over that case. But we're going to see George Russell go for another quick lap right now and maybe see them improve.
Yeah, most likely with both splitting their simulations, Mercedes may just have made a better job in creating the setup Russell in the simulations off track. So he just needed one kind of race simulation to see that the setup feels great for him, and now could advance to do some quali simulation, and now bit of a long run on the softs, while Hamilton, as you just said, has some problems with the track, some bouncing currently, so maybe he's just trying a different setup than in the first trial race simulation, and that's why the splitting just came, because he just needed that extra time on the medium tire on the race simulation to see if some setup changes work for him, or if he has to go back to the older setup, which he maybe doesn't really like.
Yeah, it's something that you've got to look into setup-wise. I don't think people realise that when you get to real Formula 1, they pretty much make 95% of the setup, maybe 90% of the setup, and they kind of stick to that before they even have got to the circuit. They do make some changes once they get there, and say a driver was to have a really bad time, then they would make some more changes. But most of the time at most circuits, most teams, most drivers will have made their setups way before the Grand Prix has started, as they bring different packages to suit that circuit. So it's something that you've got to be really prepared on, and it's why you can see a lot of teams operating at the high level that they always do seem to do. And it's just every now and again you see a few cars and a few drivers complaining. Unfortunately, it has been mostly the Mercedes that we've heard complaining here and there about their cars. Everyone's going to have their difficulties, but the Mercedes has just been completely random, sometimes really good, sometimes really bad. But hopefully they can get that sorted at some point soon. We have got Colapinto just setting a very, very quick lap time right there. George Russell did set a lap, but I can't remember if they improved or not. They didn't improve, but Colapinto 8/10 behind Russell still. They go to P2, but not really that far ahead on Max Verstappen.
Yeah, the Williams looked quite fast in Austin, Mexico, which are similar to Brazil in terms of the long straights and high-speed parts, but especially the middle sector here is completely different to both other tracks. or maybe comparable with the last sector of Mexico. It's just a more low speed, and I don't know how much that suits the Williams car with the traction. And I think that might be the reason why they're so far behind, because they're just maybe struggling more in the middle sector than other teams do with their car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be the case. Now, we do see what we've been waiting for, Tom. We can see the qualifying runs coming in from many teams. So when we get to about 3 minutes on the clock, we'll make our predictions for sprint qualifying, and we'll see if we can get it right somewhat. Unfortunately, we won't be doing a watch along. Well, I say won't be. Very unlikely to be doing a watch along for the sprint race, but we will be there for sprint qualifying and qualifying on Saturday, of course, for that second qualifying session, the main qualifying session. But lots of cars now coming through the final corners. I say that, setting their laps. We've got Albon who beats their teammate, and that is a bit more like it lap time wise for the Thai driver. We've got Carlos Sainz only to P4, splitting the Williams' drivers, and we've got Colin Pinto going around again, but it's going to be Hamilton who will be up next and is still on that medium tyre, so they're not going to be setting a super competitive lap time. We will get Stroll starting a lap soon, and that is going to be Bottas also starting a lap soon. So lots of drivers are really heating up, and we are going to get to see this brilliant pace. So we've got Perez still in the pit lane, we've got Lawson on a fresh set of mediums, interestingly, and Hamilton, of course, still on that medium tyre, so they're not going to be setting a quick lap time at some point soon. We've got Colpint who's just finished and gone back into the pit lane, but immediately back out. And then we do have Verstappen, who is in the pit lane at the moment, so they're not currently looking to set a lap, but they will probably be coming out within the next few minutes, I would assume, and both Red Bulls would follow one another. We've just had Lawson and Piastri go up to P5 and 6, but we've had, more importantly, Behrman go just over 100th of a second away from George Russell.
Yeah, it's really close between Russell, Behrman, and Albon, which is kind of surprising, especially seeing the gap to the Ferrari of Sainz. Maybe just had a little mistake, and also Russell had a little bit mistake on the track, with now a bit more of track evolution, so that could have brought Behrman and Albon closer. But when comparing to the split times of Norris, it doesn't seem like he could get in front of Behrman. So I would just say really good lap time of the Haas driver, and hopefully he can prove it and do it again in the sprint shootout, and if he has to, also in the qualifying session.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. We've had Russell complaining about some sort of issue in their car with their tyre. Maybe something's getting caught, I think they're saying. I don't quite know. We're going to get Alonso getting a brilliant tow from Colapinto, and is going to be able to set probably quite a quick lap because of that, as they go to P6. Never mind. Colapinto is starting again on their scrub tyre. Not a bad lap from Alonso, but 4 tenths away from Russell with a big toe. That's not where that team is necessarily going to want to be. We do have Perez out on track. We're waiting for Verstappen, but yeah, Verstappen is on their way out now. Piastri also is going to be doing the same thing. Behrman in the pit lane, I can't see them coming out again, but they might go on this same scrub. Actually, I think, yeah, no, they are coming out again, and they are going to do the same scrub. I just completely take that back. It would make sense to do another run on that tyre. Lando Norris, they have set their lap time, of course, very quick, but it's all a bit of a mix. I was saying earlier on that we're probably going to see a bit more of a representative session of where all the cars are going to be. I'm not saying that this isn't going to be what we're going to see, because it could be, but it's very unlikely according to the way how history goes. So I said that we're going to do our predictions at 3 minutes. I might have to pull it to 1 minute, because right now there's a lot of cars to set laps on these soft compound tyres. Hamilton, though, still out on that medium, so it is pretty much confirmed that he is not going to be doing a qualifying run unless he goes on to a set of softs roundabout now. Nope, they stay out, so I think they're going to continue to go out, do race distance running, and then get a bit of a practice start going on, I think, for Hamilton. Esteban Ocon having a big issue on pit lane entry, almost a crash between themselves and Colapinto. Ocon maybe having some sort of engine problem. I don't know why they were going so slow into the pit lane entry there. We've got Hamilton, who just trying to cut his way through the traffic. I mean, he's not doing necessarily quali simulations, but he has a lot of traffic. He wasn't necessarily impeded, but it just does prove that it's very difficult. I say he wasn't impeded. He went into the final major corner, and there was a car right on the apex, and then it cut away. So maybe he was. But yeah, we've got a lot of cars now on track. We've got Max Verstappen, who is going to be going to try and set a quick lap time at the moment. Where will that man be? All eyes on the Dutchman. We've got Lando Norris also on their way out on the track. We've got Ocon also on their way out right now. Everybody is in the mix. Some people going in, some people going out, some people trying to get a fresh set of mediums on. It looks like that's what Sonoda has done to, I assume, do a practice start on a correct tyre. But Piastri, Sainz and Verstappen all improving at this stage. Now, who will be crossing the line first? It would be Piastri. So we've got I take that back. It will be Verstappen, who is 0.038 seconds behind at the moment. And now he goes around the final corner, and he's going to be going along the straight. We will get that confirmation on where they will be, and it is going to be DRS open and into the pit lane. What a lap there for Verstappen. Is it going to be just medium tyre? Are they going to look at the sector times and then judge that on their lap time? We will see. But Piastri goes to P4. We're going to have Carlos Sainz coming across the line, and it doesn't look like they're necessarily setting the world on fire, but they do improve. They don't improve. So they're just going to stay where they are. I'm wondering if Max Verstappen just wanted to set a sector 1 or sector 2. They're going to plonk on a set of medium tyres and then do a practice start. It looks like they are possibly doing that. No. They're just coming straight out again. Interesting. Nope, yeah, they are on the medium. There you go. They are on the medium. So they're going to just judge that first sector, second sector, maybe not bothered about setting an actual lap. Or if they were impeded and I didn't get to see it on the feed, then that is very possible as well. Now, Leclerc and Norris are going to be going very quickly. We are under the 1 minute range. We've just got Norris going purple. Tom, who's going pole position for you? I'm going to say... right now, I'm going to say Lando Norris.
Yeah, Norris looking really fast, but I just wouldn't say anything against Verstappen, especially on the sprint weekend. I say Verstappen getting the sprint shootout in front of Russell, in front of Norris.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So it's going to be Verstappen, Russell, Norris for pole position later on. That's going to be incredible. Crossing the line though, as Norris will go faster, and will go fastest by 0.181, almost 0.2 of a second right there, improving very nicely. You've got Hulkenberg going for an improvement lap here, and I think we'll have maybe a couple of other cars also doing improvement laps, but for the most part I think it will just be a lot of people trying to get some practice starts in and setting some extra laps so they don't have to go back into the pit lane. Right now, it is Lando Norris, George Russell, Oliver Behrman to P3, setting a great lap right there. Then we've got Albon skip Piastri, Oscar Piastri, then Alex Albon. So, yeah, I'm completely mixed up here. I've got very distracted. That is the session done. We're just having a few more people crossing the line now, and I don't think we're going to get any improvements. Although Carlos Sainz has just set a fastest Sector 1 on their in-lap. I say that, though, it's not necessarily going to be their in-lap because they will be doing those practice starts. And I'll go through the results one more time as I just double-check no one should be improving at this stage of the session. We've got Lando Norris taking the top spot in FP1. We've got Russell in P2, Behrman, Piastri, Albon, Leclerc, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Alonso and Gasly finishing the top 10, both Racing Bulls 11th and 12th with Lawson and Sonoda. Then we've got Colapinto, Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton, Stroll, Ocon, Perez and Zhou Guanyu at the end of the session. Now, we'll go to sprint qualifying later on, and we will, we'll join you there at 6 p.m. GMT. That will be 7 p.m. CET. Don't miss it. It's gonna be a very, very good one. Thank you very much, Tom, for joining us, and we'll see you in a bit as well for that session. Thank you very much, everybody, and bye-bye.